everybody, it's April. Today I just wanted to experiment with this thing that came in the Hero Arts kit. It is a silk ink is what they describe it as on the kit descriptions. And you want to shake it real well because it has like a ball in there, like a fingernail polish bottle that you'll hear rattling around, and it mixes up all that iridescence you see in the bottom. So it does clump up quite a bit. You got to shake it quite a bit. But we were having a discussion on Instagram about the uses for it, and so I've been playing around, and I thought I would share with you what I've discovered using it kind of just like you would a re-inker or an India ink to color paste and to use in that way. But I had one thing that happened while I was experimenting that I was surprised at. I thought this would be like an India ink, where as opposed to say distress re-inkers or something like that, I didn't think you'd be able to pull this color back out, but you can, so that surprised me. So it is a lot like using a water-based ink, just a more concentrated one. So what I did is I took some of these. I had done a watercolor paper comparison the other day, and so I was just playing around with this ink from the kit, and I'll show you here. This one here is me just dropping it into wet water, literally just taking the bottle, the applicator from the bottle, and just kind of dropping down onto a puddle of water. So you see these beautiful blooms that you get. And note that when you go to close this bottle, you might want to wipe the lid, because I had these big hunks of dried ink fall off like a crust. So that's what those dark lines are. And then when I was splattering, this is the splatter effect. And you see the difference of it from just going on to dry paper versus wet, how differently it reacts. And the reason why I thought it wouldn't pull back out with water is because when you go to apply this onto just dry paper, it soaks in so quickly, literally, like just soaks instantly into the paper. Now I'm working with the watercolor papers that I had used in that experiment. This one is the Strathmore 400 series. That is actually a better, what I would use for traditional like painting a scene, like just straight up painting with watercolors. But so that's how that one reacted, and also the splatters, you know, onto the dry paper. But this is what really intrigued me, is so I was first painting with it to see how, you know, I could just paint with it like with the water brush. I just put some ink onto my acrylic block and picked it up with this. I didn't use any water, I just was using the bristles, and that's how that came out. And then I just painted some on, I dropped some on here, dropped some on the paper, and it let me pull that color right out. So that was really interesting. Here you can see I just wiped it with the brush from the bottle, and I pulled out this end, I pulled out that end, but that's the middle. And then here's just some more splatters that had dropped on the bottle, and I just sprayed them and they fanned out very quickly. So really interesting. So I just wanted to go over some uses that you can use this for. Whether you do art journaling, mixed media, do cards, really you could use this application in many ways. So I'll share with you what I came up with. Again, I wanted to show you just what I did there on camera so you can see. I'm going to zoom you down a little bit. And this is just using the same papers that I had used in that watercolor comparison. This is the Strathmore Ready Cut hot press. So this one's really smooth. So I'm going to go in and just show you here the just wiping it straight onto paper with the applicator bottle. And that does go right into, you can see I'm still getting some of that crust. And actually the end of my applicator, the bristles are kind of getting stuck together, so that might be from a lot of just letting it holding it out too long in the air maybe. So let me do this. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see how this pulls out. But you can see how it's wet on one side and it's drying on this side. So this already soaked into the paper. This side is still wet above the surface. So I'm not even using water right now, but I can drag this out pretty good. That's that part that's still wet. And it really, you don't need a lot. I did realize that. So I'm going to just drop some water on there, and you can see how that's coming out. So let me pull that ink. And if you really wanted to mess with it, you could pretty much get rid of that dark line. I think I just put too much down, but you're going to get a lot of that color coming out and dragging out of that. So you see that, you can see it breaking off of the paper as I do that. But again, you just don't need that much ink. So let me show you what it looks like when you just drop it into wet water, into the wet water. Let me see here. This is just really pretty. I love this effect. Let me see if I can zoom in while I'm doing this so you guys can see it. So pretty. Alright. Look how pretty that is. It's almost like an alcohol ink. When you're working with alcohol, it's hard to get some ink off of there. Let me grab my pipette. Look at that, so pretty. See how that blooms? I could do this all day. Oh, big air bubble. Anyhow, so isn't that gorgeous? So that's really cool, doing just a wash of it'd be neat if you had some other colors and then let it dry, or do some other colors, let them all fade into each other like you would working with alcohol inks. So super pretty. And you can see it does dry pretty quickly. It's drying and soaking into the water or into the paper. But yeah, I love how that just fans out. So pretty. So that's the wet on wet. And then here's just putting on the paper and pulling it out. And then I'm going to take some of the cold. And what I did is, oh, I wanted to show you too that you could just drop some on your acrylic block and actually paint with it. So let me do that. I'm going to just drop a little bit here on my acrylic palette next to me. I already actually have some on there. Let's see how well you can see. Alright. There we go. Let's see if I can get these to come out. Put a little bit more on there. So on the acrylic block, you know, it's just like any other ink. I would think that, you know, it's going to just dry up on your acrylic, but you can easily wipe it off and clean it off. So, all right, so let me show you here. I'm just going to use a regular paintbrush this time, and I'm just going to dip in. Let me zoom you in a little bit more. So I'm just dipping over here into my puddle on the block and coming in and painting with it. So, you know, it's really giving me enough time. It's not making any, it's not drying too fast that I can't get a good blend or, you know, an even coating without any major dry patches. Excuse me. Hey, stop. Stop. Stop fighting. No. No. Sorry, my kitty cats are fighting. Well, they're doing that where they giving each other a bath, but then that turns into a, you know, like they just start biting each other. So, I don't know. But they're actually laying in an embrace right now, fighting over who gets to lick who. Silly cats. But yeah, so I thought that's pretty cool there. You can paint with it. Alrighty. And then, so with the same concept of, you know, water in the ink, I went ahead and poured a few drops into a mini mister. And I just wanted to show you how that works. And I think I probably put like 5 drops into it, but I just wanted to show you how that's going to come out. So really pretty. Works out perfect as an ink for your ink, you know, a mister. So yeah, so that's that. We did that one, and I wasn't sure how it would work doing a stamped image, but we'll be brave, and I have a couple extra of these little stamps that Lawn Fawn gives you when you make an order. So I thought I would put some on my block here and see if I can stamp with it. You know, I mean, you can stamp with some inks. So let's see, I'm just not sure how I would, oh, that just went flying everywhere. So I'm just going to kind of lay I'm not sure how much you can see of my block there, but I'm just going to make a line on my acrylic block. I can't see this really being something that we would want to do, but I just thought I would try it and see if it works. So I'm just going to dap my stamp into the ink and see if it'll let me stamp. Yeah, but you're going to get it where it's pulling up. So, but it does let you stamp. Yeah. Yeah, I would say stamp off a couple times and you're going to get a cleaner image. So that's that. And I'm going to see what happens here. Let that sit for a minute. See if I can clean that stuff up. Like if it'll just let me take a baby wipe and clean things off. But I wanted to experiment with the paste. Using this as a, you know, like any other ink. Going in and coloring your paste. Let me move that over here first. Sorry, a little bit worried about it staining, but I hope it doesn't. So I just put some, let's see, I have modeling paste. I don't know where my texture paste is, but so which one is, that's gesso, just plain gesso. This is the modeling paste here, the thicker on the end to the right. And then I put some matte gel. Now, I'm not sure why you would want to color your matte gel medium. Usually people want this as a clear coating over, like when they're, you know, doing art journal spreads or something. But I thought, hey, you know, I got it out here, so let's just see what all it'll color. I'm really going to, you know, guess that it'll color all of these because it's such a dark, you know, whoa, don't need that much. You know, it's just such a thick ink, so I'm going to put a few drops in each one, and I'd imagine you can alter the color by how much you put in there. Sorry, I got way too much in my dropper. Alright, so I'm going to just set that aside before I make a bigger mess. Starting to flick it onto my onto my table. So let's see here. Okay, so this one is the modeling paste. And I'm just gonna, yeah, that's really coloring that. That's pretty. I think I've got something on my palette that's hardened, but that's okay. You get the gist of it. So there's some modeling paste that's really mixing up pretty. That's a beautiful color. Alright, so we got that. I'm going to put a little bit on my stencil. Just do a little section over here. Alright, now I'll just see how that'll clean up. Alright, we'll do that. I'm not really, I know that some people get offended by people wasting product, but I've had that jar of modeling paste for a long time. Before I did any cards, I did, yeah, that's really pretty. I did, you know, art journaling. I was experimenting with that, and of course, you know, I had to go out and buy everything that you're supposed to get for doing art journaling, so that's why I had that big thing of modeling paste. And I think actually I got the wrong thing. I think I was supposed to get texture paste back then. So that's why I have that big jug of it. So I'm just cleaning off my stencil here, getting most of this off of the surface real quick. So 1 second. So I think that's really pretty. Obviously mixes really well with that. And then let's try this one is the matte gel. So this is more of your, oh, that's really pretty. Oh, sorry, off camera. Let me move everything over so you can see that mix. Alright, let's move that up. So that's really pretty. And it's almost giving you like you could really make a swirl. Get streaks because it's a more of a gel consistency. But ultimately, I feel like if you mix it with anything that has a white base, it's going to come out with this really beautiful turquoise color. And that's the natural color. It just looks so much darker in the bottle, and I'm not really seeing the iridescence, so I probably didn't get a lot of that iridescence when I put it in, you know, dropped it onto here. But if you mixed it up, I would imagine you could get a lot of that iridescence and pearlescence into your mix as well. So let me try this. A little scoop of this on the stencil as well. Alright, sorry about that shaking. Alright, so let's do a little bit on this. This is really thin because it's the gel, but oh yeah, that's coming out a little bit darker. That's pretty. But that's spreading over pretty good. Yeah, that almost seems like it's going into the paper pretty quick. But you're going to get that glossy finish because it's the gel medium. Oh, that's really cool. You could do this if you were doing an art journal or something like that, or even on a card, really. But you let this dry, you have that surface, then anything you put over top of this isn't going to really, it'll be like an emboss resist. So then you could go in and maybe ink blend or use your like stencil brushes or something to color the inside of this pattern. That'd be really pretty. So, but yeah, you're gonna get that gloss sheen on there. So let me see. Well, that one's a matte gel, so it says it's gonna dry matte, but it's still gonna, you know, it's gonna be, I would think, resistant to color going over the top of it. I don't know. I haven't done art journaling in a long time. So anyway, let me just wash this off real quick too. I'll rinse it and set it aside so it just doesn't dry hard on there. And then the last thing was the gesso, which I would probably utilize gesso in what I do, because sometimes I'll play around with acrylic inks and trying to paint on canvas. So normally you would use your gesso to prep a page. Art journalists will use it as well. But so yeah, let me zoom this in so you can see how that's mixing. But so far, like I thought, you know, it's going to really color your products easily. I mean, just, you know, definitely a good, concentrated ink to do that with. So this one's really pretty. I like those, kind of like the little dots. And this is coming out a lot later because gesso is such a white, heavy pigment paint. So you can see how different the color is compared to the other ones. Kind of surprised because the modeling paste was pretty white, thick paint. So yeah, so that one's the gesso. And what I would do with that, like I said, is just paint it over a canvas. Let me see. I'm just going to paint it on here for the purposes of this video. But yeah. That's really pretty. Oh, wow. And that's sliding over, you know, I think that's just the gesso texture, but I don't feel like the ink isn't really affecting, you know, the consistency or anything like that. And that's really pretty. It comes out a lot lighter. So yeah, so I'm trying to think if I forgot anything. That's so far what I've played around doing. Doing the stencil work, coloring different types of products, you know, using it for that. You can actually go in and stamp with the ink if you want. Now this is starting to dry on my block, so I thought I would show you and see if it'll clean up. But you know, you could use the ink to put on your acrylic block, pick it up with a paintbrush or your water brush, watercolor with it, paint with it. It'd be interesting to get some other inks because I kind of like this bottle. It's almost like having the Nouveau. You know, you could store these easily in a nail polish, you know, little rack hanging on your wall and have a bunch of these inks. Maybe that's how they already are designed. I don't, you know, I just don't experiment in the art journaling or any like that anymore. So these kind of products I wouldn't think to get. But that would be kind of cool because you can do so much with it that, you know, similar to the re-inkers. I don't have any re-inkers. I have alcohol inks, but those are specifically alcohol. But yeah, you can see that shimmer in there, which I don't know if I really got any of that in here. No, but you could, you know, really make sure it's mixed up before you do anything. But yeah, so, you know, that would be kind of cool. Just storage purposes. It's a really small container to have on your desk, or, you know, have a little rack, like I said, of your primary colors, and you're good to go. You could mix anything. So we saw that, you know, you could use it for the mist. Again, I didn't really see, let me look in the spray if we got any iridescence coming through. Not really. So maybe when you dilute it with the water like that, it's going to be a little bit different. I do see it in this that we did, and it's still wet. But that blooming, so just, you know, dropping it into a wet paint, letting it spray, you know, just go out like that and fan out. We learned that we could just, you know, pull it out with a water brush, you know, paint it on. You could pull that out if you wanted to in your Dragonfly, even after the fact, you know. Probably have a lot of ink on here, but let's see. A little bit. But so yeah, so you can do that, and then again with just really just flicking it onto your page and getting the splatters really darker color. You're going to get the darkest color doing that. So yeah, so you can do that. You can do a lot with it, just using it like a re-inker, or you know, some other inks that you might have that are water-based, and then using it in your paste to color your products. And then we did attempt to stamp it, so I just wanted to see how these are going to clean up. I would think with the water base, you know, if it is, I would think it is, you could clean these up pretty good. So let me see. Yeah, it's coming off. It's not even staining it as bad as, like, I can still see the black ink under there, the VersaFine. So yeah, that's coming off pretty good. So that blue ink isn't staining the clear stamp. And then coming over here on your palette, yeah, it's coming right up. So see, it just pulled that up. So yeah, that's going to clean up easy. So alright, well, hopefully that gave you some ideas of what you can do with it. I think people are just a little put off by it being in the container, but that's the purposes you can use it for. So hopefully you will give it a shot using it if you did get it in the kit, or you just want to pick up some inks like this and check them out. I haven't seen them before, so I think it's pretty interesting. And a little messy. I've got it all over me, but that's the nature of playing with mixed media, right? And those products that you would use for that. So really cool. I'm definitely liking how you can get the different shades by what you mix it with. The gesso here is really pretty. That's probably my favorite. And then I like the using the gel medium and mixing it, you get that glossier look. So anyway, all right, you guys, take care, and I hope you're having fun with the kit. Have a wonderful Mother's Day. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.